Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Fairfield Friends. If you have a telephone with you, I would like to remind you to put it on airplane mode, if you would, please. That helps the people on Zoom. And for our first hymn, it comes in Sing Joyfully, and it's number 433, Near to the Heart of God. Let's all stand. When I was asked to participate in the facing bench, my mind began circling with ideas. Ideas of current events in my life, ideas gleaned through the current national and world events, and ideas from the topic of our series of sermons on equality. Mike and I host a block party for our neighborhood every July 4th. So I considered the topic of freedom, since the 4th of July celebrates our freedom. Last week's debate made me think of our responsibility to vote. And our current topic of sermons of recent has now been on how Quakers got it right. One of the ways that Quakers got it right was, as Phil will speak on today, the equality of all human beings. Our equality as a race, our equality as sexes, our equality as Republicans, Democrats, Libertarians, and other parties. And that brought to mind the first presidential debate. And that brought to mind our freedom and responsibilities as citizens to vote. So naturally, as a former grade school teacher, I sought out the wisdom of Dr. Seuss on the matter. And there was not a nil squat on freedom. There was not a nil squat on our responsibility to voice our opinions by voting. Not a nil squat on how we as Quakers may have gotten it right, but luckily I found a Dr. Seuss-esque book called I Vote, or One Vote, Two Votes, I Vote, You Vote. Yes, it's a child's book, but sometimes a child's book has wisdom that applies as much to adults as to children. This is an abridged version, and it does just that. I hope you find the book as informative and relative as to adults as I do. So here we go. One vote, two votes. I vote, you vote. Voting is something we do every day. It's a way we can choose that guarantees our say. We vote for class president and which snack to get, where to go on a class trip, what to choose as a class pet. Can you choose? Voting gives each of us our very own voice. It allows a large group to make one single choice. How do we vote? With a proudly raised hand, marks on a paper, thumbs up or thumbs down. Understand? Can you choose not to vote? Yes, but that's a sure way to lose your own voice and to not have a say. The item or person that most of us select will wind up the winner, the one we elect. The biggest of all America's voting events chooses our president and our vice president. Are presidents important? Oh, yes, they are very. They head up the government and the whole military. Vice presidents take over on the unhappy day when presidents get sick or else pass away. Every 4 years we elect them, you see, because we live in a democracy, a government for the people and run by them too, which means that this country is governed by you. Candidates set out on the campaign trail to convince all the voters that they will not fail. With speeches and ads and small town meetings, with handshakes and waves and cheery greetings, they work to win the voters' trust. To win nomination, that is a must. I may be wrong, but it does seem to me that voting is one big responsibility. When election day comes, the voter's big role is to make certain to vote at their assigned poll. If you're out of town, there's a chance that you might mail an absentee ballot. Voting, it is a citizen's right. Who you choose is your very own business. And so, slip your card in the ballot box and no one will know. The polls close up at the end of the day, and here come the counters. Please clear the way. By special computer, poll results are scanned, but some votes are still counted out by hand, and the results are all sent to the boards of elections, which declares the winner after careful inspections. Then the winner should admit their bitter defeat. The loser should admit their bitter defeat, while the winner announces their victory sweet. Their winner vows to serve everyone in the land, not just the supporters who lent them a hand. The winner will say, when the voting is done, we should all still be good friends, one for all and all for one. I hope you take your voting seriously and vote. And now it's time for announcements, and we will begin with the people on Zoom. Does anybody on Zoom have an announcement? If not, we will start with the people in here. If you have an announcement, please stand, take the microphone, introduce yourself, and make your announcement.
Hi, This is Laura Gabbard, and I just wanted to say that Jeff and I are backyard gardeners, and we spend a lot of time in the garden, but this past week we've had vegetables that we couldn't eat ourselves. So I brought a bag in and put it in the dining room, on the divider between the kitchen and the dining room, and it's got a couple of overgrown squash and several cucumbers, so please help yourself if anyone wants one. And I'm not promising, but chances are there will be more in future weeks.
Thank you. Take that. Joanne Gulley, and just a reminder that book club is today at 12 o'clock, so if you are a participant, we're discussing everyday vitality, so 12 o'clock to 1:30 in the dining room. Bill, you had your hand up.
Just a reminder that, this is Bill Smith, just a reminder that on July 20th, we're going to have a cleaning out day in the 1892 Meeting House. Anybody who has the ability to come, we'd love to have you help us. We're going to try and get out the stuff that's easy to get out of that building. So, and the second thing is that I've had a couple of people express interest, and I think it might be useful considering our age, of maybe having a CPR lesson. So if you're interested, I will send out an email. I'll send it to Jeff, and Jeff will send it out. But anyway, asking for interest in that, try and figure out whether we have enough interest to get a group together and get CPR, AED, and choking. So thank you.
Hi, this is Sue Walton, and I'm going to wear my Friends of the Plainfield Library hat. Next week is our sale. It's the 10th through the 14th, and teachers get half price. And teachers is a very broad term. We don't care if you're from Alaska or just down the road, if you're a homeschooler or a high school or a kindergarten teacher or a college teacher. Books are half price for anyone in the education field. So please come by the Plainfield Library. We'll be upstairs in what they call Macmillan B. So please join us. And if you want to sneak in earlier, contact me and I can get you into the characters. Yeah, that's what and I'm going to be counting money later. So thank you.
Good morning. I'm Sarah Lookabell, and monthly meeting approved hosting a meal for yearly meeting, which is coming up this week, and our time is Friday evening. We have everything taken care of for the meal, except that we still need 4 cakes that would serve 12 people each, so 9 by 13, and 5 pies that would serve 6 each one, obviously. And then we need 8 people to help serve and clean up. And if you're willing to do that, if you would let me know, you would need to be at the yearly meeting house at 5:30 and be there for a couple hours. And I don't think cleanup is going to take a really long time. But anyhow, and the kitchen is downstairs. The yearly meeting house is in Plainfield at 103 Southeast Street. It's adjacent to Plainfield Friends Meeting. So it's right on the corner of 40 and East Street. So if you can help with any of that, I would appreciate it. And just let me know. Thanks.
And a reminder,
I want to go to yearly meeting.
since next Sunday is yearly meeting, we will not be meeting here. We will be meeting at yearly meeting at 10 a.m. Is that right, Sarah? And then on Sunday afternoon, Carrie Newcomer will be giving a concert. So we'll want to enjoy that if we're available. Oh God, we are grateful today for friendships. For familiar faces who bring back such wonderful memories in our lives. It prepares us, oh God, when we see old friends. It prepares us to make new friends, realizing at once the joys that can be known when we love others deeply. So, oh God, place in our hearts not only an appreciation for those we have known the longest, but also for those we have yet to meet, who will just as surely shape our lives and bless our lives if we let them. We pray for people far and near, oh God, that they would know healing and peace and joy and reconciliation. That those who are the victims of war will know peace, and that those who wage war will lay down their arms and commit themselves anew to a better way of living. We pray for those who lead, that they may lead with grace and wisdom and dignity, with a firm conviction in the worth of all humanity, and not just those for whom they are responsible. That they would love the alien as much as the native. For, oh God, we are all aliens in a way, and we are all native in a way. We dedicate ourselves anew this day to the highest and noblest objectives we can imagine: to love, to cherish, to treat with goodwill all people. Oh God, may you be our guide and our help in this endeavor. Amen. Well, it's now time to gather our food, and we need some, I won't say robust, I'll say good. There you go, an eager volunteer. We got him. All right. Forgot I was on the mic. Thank you, Josiah. Thank you, Charles. Oh, well. We were down at the farmhouse these past 2 days. Anita Cammett came down there with us, and we all have loud neighbors who are vigorous celebrators of the nation's independence. And so down at the farm, we have one neighbor who's Quaker and is very quiet, and so we thought we'd go down there, and we did, and it was very lovely. Very lovely. I'm getting to the point in my life where noise just kind of is not as welcome as it once was. I'll put it that way. Things we got just right. Several years ago, a man I know was told he was dying, which of course we all are. But his death was sooner than he had anticipated. Though well off, he'd always been very miserly, very cheap, to the frustration of his wife, who wanted them to travel and see things and visit their children and grandchildren scattered across the country, and all those important things that aren't cheap but immensely rewarding. Facing death, though, his priorities changed, and he made a bucket list of things he'd always wanted to do but didn't feel he could afford, like buying gifts for his friends and family, home improvements, making sure his wife had a new car to drive after he was gone, eating out more, going to concerts and enjoying music. Unfortunately, if that's the right word for it, during the course of more medical tests, it was discovered a mistake had been made. He wasn't dying, and he went back to being stingy. His wife told me, we had such fun when we thought he was dying. This is not a unique experience. Whenever we think life is about to radically change, we often feel liberated to do things we never would have considered. There are some Bible scholars, actually many, who believe the Apostle Paul's openness to female participation in the early church was due to his belief that the world was coming to an end, so he felt freer to rewrite the cultural rules that had heretofore guided him. He wrote about it in the church to Galatia, this expansive view. There is neither Jew nor Greek, there is neither slave nor free, there is neither male nor female. You are all one in Christ Jesus. Like Paul, early Quakers, early Friends also believed Jesus would soon be returning and the world as they knew it would be ending. Like Paul, they felt freer to open the gates, welcoming those who had previously not been welcomed, investing power in those who had never held power, especially women and people of color. What we do not know, what we cannot know, although probably Tom Ham would know now that I think about it, is whether early Friends would have been so eager for change if they had thought those changes would be permanent. After all, anybody can be flexible for a little while. Okay, we can do this. We won't be around much longer. Kind of like the way I do home repairs. I'm not going to live in this house forever. That'll do. It's important to note that other people, when they sense their world is ending, do not experience the freedom to rewrite the rules and expand their world, but instead wanting to be found righteous and faithful to the end, double down on their rules, harden their beliefs, rigidly enforcing their principles all the more. God is watching us. We must stand strong in the face of these temptations. So they just dig in. Now, whether Friends swung open the gates because of a sincere conviction about the sin of exclusion, or because they thought any changes they made would be temporary, whatever their reason, I'm glad they did what they did. We talked for a while about things early Quakers got wrong. So now, as we consider the things they got right, let's add to that list their inclusion of those persons the church had never included. Their decision to value equality and inclusion over cultural norms and tired traditions. And let me tell you, that's hard to do when your culture is going one way and you say, no, we're going to go another way. That is a very difficult thing to do. We continue today the Quaker inclusion, tradition of inclusion in our welcome of gay people, in our welcome of people of color. The fastest growing segment now in the world of Quakerism is people of color. We continue the Quaker tradition of inclusion in our welcome of trans people, in our welcome of the elderly as well as the young, in our welcome of the poor as well as the wealthy, of the politically traditional as well as the politically progressive, of dog people and cat people, which might be the most radical inclusion of all. Too often, when we open the gates wide to everyone, we think we are doing them a favor and pat ourselves on the back for our broad-mindedness. But here's the thing. When we include people who have been excluded, we do ourselves a favor. We do ourselves a favor. Study after study indicates that more diverse communities enjoy higher rates of creativity, production, and innovation, while communities that remain stubbornly unvaried inevitably stagnate and die. In today's cultural worlds, movements for diversity, equality, and inclusion in education and workplaces have been targeted and in some instances even forbidden by the legislatures in some of our more benighted states. This is social suicide. Social suicide. For when voices, perspectives, and races other than our own are excluded, tamped down, or silenced, we deny ourselves the creativity, productivity, and innovation that come with variety and diversity. I can't help but wonder if the explosive growth and vitality of early Friends was due to our robust equality. No group that excludes 50% of the world's population from decision-making can thrive, let alone endure. A Fairfield story. I heard this from Rosemary Swift, who's no longer with us, but I'd go visit her, and she would regale me with these stories about past days. And she was very old. She might have even been there, I don't know, in 1898. She was up there. And she was the first one who told me about this woman named Sarah Woodard. Our meeting was founded in 1826. It was, like every other Quaker meeting in America, an unprogrammed meeting where people gathered in silence. For our first 72 years, that was our pattern of worship in this meeting. We would all sit in silence, and people, men and women, children, would stand and speak as they feel led. In the decades following the Civil War, our church, like many churches, experienced explosive growth. It became difficult to assimilate these new friends into the life of the meeting, to teach them about Quakerism and to foster their spiritual growth. So we decided the time had come to employ our first pastor. It was a woman named Sarah Woodard, as far as I can tell, the first female pastor in Hendricks County. And from what I've read, Sarah Woodard was a force of nature. She belonged to the first graduating class of Earlham College in 1847. Not only was she an excellent teacher and speaker, she was also a gifted organizer who began her ministry at Fairfield at the age of, now, I was thinking for a while of retiring at the age of 65, and then I've written about that and said, if you put up with me, I'm willing to see if we can go. She began her ministry here at the age of 74. At 74. That we continue as a meeting today is due in no small part to her leadership and legacy. Last month, when the Southern Baptists gathered for their annual convention and decided God didn't call women to ministry, I thought immediately of Sarah Woodard and said to myself, oh, yes, she does. Oh, yes, she does. In life, it's the differences that help us thrive. Quakers' inclusion of women transformed Early Friends from a regional movement to a global tide in just a few decades. Many of our earliest missionaries and teachers that were going out and traveling and visiting other countries and continents were women. When we stop including, when we close the gate, we start dying. In our own generation, we're seeing this now, when those Quaker meetings who have shut out gay people teeter near death. Void of spirit, dull of mind. So open wide the gates, friends, open wide the gates, not just in our meeting. It does us no good just to do that here. We need to do it in our personal lives also. Seek out, befriend, and welcome those who bring with them the gift of difference, the blessing of variety. For we never know whom God will use to lift the veil of tedium that so often engulfs us. We never know whom God will use to break our bonds and set us free. We never know. So open wide the gates.
I can remember entering many environments and being seen as diverse, adding to. And I can remember lots of feelings. One, in environments that were considered to be tolerant. I remember just feeling tolerated. And then other times, I was seen as decoration. And it wasn't until I got really clear about who I was that I understood that the reason why inclusion is important is because I'm already included. I'm already in the common place of soul with something to add. And what I add is another expression of God, which is what courses through all of us. I love the commonness of diversity.
Well, it was Sarah Woodard, who 26 years ago stood before Fairfield meeting and said, we're going to change the last hymn. And so in honor of that, we're going to change the last hymn. Pick up your green hymnals, friends. Hymn number 287, God who is Father, Mother. Lee, can you play through this one time? Hymn number 287. I was thinking this week about who we include in our lives. And I remembered something that happened to my friend Jim Mulholland when he pastored at Irvington meeting after I was there. He and his wife met a young man who had been sexually abused and molested by his father. And the young man came to live with Jim and his wife. And Jim, at the son's request, began visiting the father in jail. And he told me it was all he could do to go see this man. It was all he could do to go see him. But he would go see him and visit him and talk with him about what he had done and why he had done it. And it turns out, as is so often the case, that the man who had been the abuser had been horribly abused himself as a child. Horribly, horribly abused. And as Jim listened to his story, his heart softened toward this man. And when he was released from prison, he asked Jim, I need people in my life. Can I come to your church? And Jim said, yes, you can. And it was no secret to the congregation what the man had done. It was known by almost everyone there. And when they saw that the man had come into their presence, several of the people in that meeting left and never returned. But that man still came and began speaking to them about the importance of loving people and caring for your children in such a way so that when they grow up, they are well and happy and whole themselves and not broken and shattered like he had been. Over the course of the years that Jim was there and this man remained, that congregation began welcoming into their presence people no one else would welcome. And it became a place of great life and joy. Today, that meeting is a Hispanic congregation. They began getting more and more Hispanics in, and they decided that rather than hold the meeting for themselves, that they would turn it over and hire a Spanish-speaking pastor and see what would happen. And so all of these immigrants who were coming up from the South, who were Quakers in Central and South America, now attend that meeting and have found a home. Someone asked me, wouldn't that have bothered the original people who founded that meeting and paid for the meeting house in 1957? Wouldn't that upset them? And I said, no, it wouldn't. That meeting was started by members of a Quaker meeting whose meeting would not allow a black family to join in 1957. So they said, we're going to start a meeting where everyone will be welcomed. And they did. And that was the origin of Irvington Friends Meeting. So I said, I think the people who started this meeting would be absolutely overjoyed that it is now a circle of friends who are Hispanic. We never know. We never know in life who will change us, who will bless us, and who will expand our world. We never, ever know. So open wide the gates, friends. Love widely. Love widely. Look beyond appearance. Look beyond the story and see in people the heart. Turn and greet friends.